Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races, and we are back. We are back now to get stuck into the National Hunt racing that we kind of believe starts at this sort of date. Obviously, with the Chepstow meeting starting tomorrow, so we're going to make a real big foray into the National Hunt game this season again. Obviously, we missed a lot of the flat season due to different reasons, including ill health. But we are back for the National Hunt season. Kicking off tomorrow. So also kicking off tomorrow, or not kicking off tomorrow, but also tomorrow we have the free ratings. It's Free Ratings Friday, so you can come onto the ratings, and instead of seeing the padlocked, all the stats padlocked and the horses in alphabetical order, you will see them in ratings order. So you can come onto the ratings, you'll see them in ratings order. You can also see all of the stats over here. If you can't see all of the stats over here, go up to settings, click on column settings, and then click show all, and then simply click update, and that will update and show all of the stats for you. So that's tomorrow. Also tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday we are doing a competition. We always run the NAP competition, as you know, where there's lots of prizes to be won, including cash, free bets. Betfair have now got back in contact with us. Unfortunately, their person who was dealing with us left. He has now been replaced, and we are back with them with the competition. So there are free bets to be won. There's also winners' mugs and rating subscriptions. As well as that, that's in the weekly and monthly competitions. As well as that, in the daily competitions, we're going to be doing more daily winners. So this Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be running a daily competition, and the prizes for that is as follows. If you win the daily competition on Friday, you will get access to the ratings from Saturday to Saturday inclusive. So this Saturday, the 11th of October, all the way through and including, what's that, the 18th of October? Next Saturday? Yes, it is. So the 11th to the 18th inclusive ratings for all of those days. If you win the daily competition on Saturday, you will win ratings from the 12th to the 18th. And if you win them on the daily competition on the 12th, on the Sunday, you'll win them from the 12th to the 19th. So you'll win a week on Saturday and you'll win a week on Sunday. You'll actually win 8 days if you win the Friday competition. So it's definitely worth getting involved on Friday as well. How do you do that? Very simply, drop downs on the left hand side. Whichever races you like, you can pick from any races on the day. You don't have to pick in the same race. You don't have to pick any particular race. You can choose any of the races that are available. Once you've made your selections, go up to this NAP33, which will be in orange. You may be asked to authorise your Twitter account. We do that so that everyone can see who you've selected. And so you can see who you selected. We can't have it, or we have had it when we didn't do that people are going, that's not who I chose. I wanted a different horse. And similarly, we've had people go, how do I know that they picked that horse and you haven't changed it after the result? By posting it onto Twitter, or what's now called X, it just gives everybody that peace of mind that we are not changing the results or changing the selections after entry or after the races to, make one of our friends, in inverted commas, win the competition and not have to give out those prizes. That's not us at all. So that is why you have to authorise your Twitter account. Once you've done that, go back up to NAP33 and click submit. And that'll be it. You'll be in the competition. Going forward then, you won't have to authorise your Twitter account. You just need to click the NAP33 and submit when you're happy with the three you've got. So anyway, let's kick off with the National Hunt Racing tomorrow. Let's have a look what we're interested in. And we are starting off in the Veterans Handicap Chase, the 312. Let's just close down some of these tabs. We're interested in the 312, the Veterans Handicap Chase, over 3 mile. And I'm quite keen on Lamilos here. Now, I've always, not always, I've been a fan of Lamilos for a little while, to be fair. Since he moved to Dan Skelton, really. He started off life for Dan Skelton way back in November 2022 now, winning off a marker 142, then winning the Coral Gold Cup off 146. And then after that, I feel they just messed him about. They tried to run him in the Grand National. He ran in the Grand National. He didn't stay that far. And then they've been all over the place with him. Up and down in trip. For some decent races still. over fences, over hurdles. And even last year, they seemed to not really know what to do with him. They brought him back in October of 2024, and he ran a really eye-catching race when he was 5th in a handicap at Cheltenham. Went forward and just got tired late on. But that was in a decent race. Some of the horses against him, Senior Chief, Broadway Boy, Does He Know, the short go with a 4 that beat him. It was a good race. Pulling up with the likes of Sumscope and Vanillier. As I said, it was a good race. They then messed about with him. They dropped him in trip to 2 mile 6. Bearing in mind, he'd run over 3 mile 2. He'd also run over 4 mile 2 in the Grand National. And then they were dropping him in trip. In the Sir Peter O'Sullivan Chase, I don't think they were ever interested in winning that. They never really seemed to get him. Whilst they went forward, I just felt he was always on the back foot despite being in the front. Then went to a 2 mile 3 race. They dropped him back in trip again. He actually ran a really good race behind the very well handicapped Lowry's Bar that day, but still he wanted to step up in trip. Or, obviously when he turned 10, he was able to run in veterans races. When he started to run in veterans races, he was able to dominate over 2.5 mile even. And he won at Warwick, and he also won his last veterans chase last time out at Fakenham over 3 mile. Now, in between that, he went back into open company for a Greatwood Gold Cup. He stayed in open company for the handicap at Aintree. And then the only time he actually got beat in a veterans race was over 2.5 in the middle distance final. Now, obviously the middle distance final featured the horses that were the veterans that were still in form or still had some ability and still were running okay. And they were just too quick for him over 2.5. Now going back up in trip in what isn't this isn't the veterans final at all. This doesn't feature all of those that are bang in form. This features horses that are trying veterans races or running in veterans races because that's all they're good enough for. I think Lemilos at this grade over this trip will take a lot of beating for Dan Skelton. I think Dan Skelton is running his horses here. I think he's going to send quite a few here with big chances. Let's have a look at what price we can currently get about him. As you know, I always like to show you that I'm showing you a current price, not a price that was available 6 hours ago, which is a common trend with tipsters. They give you a price and say, oh, look, they could say this about one of these two, for example, because they're shortening. They could go, oh, Torn and Frayed, I'm on at 8. Well, that's no good. Don't tell us what you're on at. Tell us what's available. What is available at now that you're releasing your information, or not your information, but your analysis of him. So Lemilos is available readily at 100 to 30. Again, we don't include outliers, which William Hill are. Again, if you don't have a William Hill account, you can't get 7 to 2. 100 to 30, you really should have at least one of these accounts, don't you? Betfred, or Ladbrokes, or Bet Victor, or Boyle Sports, or Star Sports, or don't like them, Betway, or Coral, or Sky Bet, Paddy Power. You've got plenty of opportunity there to get 100 to 30. You don't have the same opportunity to get 7 to 2 if you've been restricted there, or you've been banned there completely, or you just don't have a William Hill account. So we're saying Lemilos is available at 100 to 30, and I think he's going to run a really big race here. The next race that I want to talk about is the 343, which is the Persian War Novices Hurdle, the Grade 2. Now, one thing that's going to happen this season, a lot of those horses previously ridden by David Maxwell, that are still owned by David Maxwell, are going to be overbet. People are going to go, wow, he's now being ridden by a proper jockey. No disrespect to David Maxwell. He's going to improve so much. That's not guaranteed. Not guaranteed at all. And to be fair, the R figures leave a little bit to be desired anyway. It's not like he was a real quality, classy top-notcher anyway. He finished 5th in... he finished 5th in the Grade 1 at Punchestown. But he was beaten 42 lengths. If he'd been beaten 3 lengths in a good scuffle with the likes of Final Demand and Tripoli Flyer, then yeah, maybe you could be starting to suggest that, and the Yellow Clay as well, who obviously fell at the last. You could be suggesting that Queensbury Boy would be right up there with the top graded horses this year, but he didn't. And that just leaves something to be desired for me, and I can't be getting involved at the price that he currently is. He's far too short. A lot of these Maxwell horses, as I said, I think are going to be priced incorrectly because they're going to be priced based on a switch of jockey. The horse I like, though, is another Dan Skelton one. It's Money Garrow, who actually makes his debut over hurdles in a grade 2. Now, for me, that normally suggests one of two things. They either think the horse is very good, or they are looking and testing to see how good he is. I think, in this instance, it's he is very good. We've got to remember, he's actually won a point-to-point over 3 mile, and he was quite impressive that day when beating Tom Deji, going away at the finish. Now, that for me is the key part. All of his runs last season at Chepstow, Ascot and Kempton were obviously in bumpers or National Hunt flat races, and they're only over 2 mile. He doesn't want 2 mile. This horse wants further than that. This horse actually looked quite big anyway. He definitely wants further than that 2 mile trip. He's a 2.5 miler, 3 miler in the future. So to start off at Chepstow over 2 mile 3 or 2 mile 3.5 a furlong, I think that's key, and I think that will really improve this horse further. His run at Ascot wasn't bad when he was behind Wind Beneath My Wings. Obviously, that horse is looking like he could be very useful himself. And then last time out, got beat at Kempton by our boy Stan for Ben Pauling in a race that just turned into a bit of a sprint for him. He didn't want that. I think I just think a stronger race will suit him better anyway. A step up and trip will suit him. The hurdles will be fine. I think he's a chaser of the future for sure. And yeah, he's also quite key. At least he's got his win in that bumper at Chepstow when he beat Kukio, I think it's pronounced, for the John Joe and John Joe Newell Jr. team. Yeah, I really like him. I think Money Garrow is the one that I want to be on here, and I think we're getting a decent price about him. What are we getting? 11-2. Almost because Queensbury Boy is too short. Queensbury Boy hasn't shown that level of form, in my opinion, the 6-4, 13-8 level of form. If David Maxwell was still on the horse, or David Maxwell had never ridden the horse, that horse wouldn't be 6-4, 13-8. He'd be more of 3s, 7-2, maybe even bigger than that. And with that in mind, Money Garrow then wouldn't be 11-2. He'd be shorter. So yeah, I think we're getting a decent price about Money Garrow at Chepstow. We then move on to the 455, one of the handicaps, the 2 mile 3 David Pipe Racing handicap. And the horse I like here is, I'm going to pronounce it Gushen. It could be Guken. I think it's Gushen. That's Gushen, not Goshen. Don't get them mixed up. They're very different horses, and at the moment of a very different level. If Goshen was running in this, even being unpredictable as he is, he would definitely win this. Gushen, I think, is very, very interesting on the basis that he's had 4 runs under rules. He finished 5th in a bumper. He then finished 2nd in a novice hurdle, 3rd in a maiden hurdle, and then 3rd last time out back in April in a maiden hurdle. Each time, he's never gone off the biggest of prices. He went off 4-1, 7-2, 4-1 and 9-2 in maiden and novice events. So in races that you generally need to be a decent horse to win a maiden or a novice. Otherwise, you're looking down the line already at handicaps. And I feel that might be what they've done here. They've been looking down the line at handicaps. He arguably ran his best 2 races when only beaten 2.5 lengths and 4.5 lengths over this sort of trip, 2 mile 3 and 2 mile 4. His other 2 defeats where he was beaten further, including at Huntingdon where he was beaten 11 lengths, that was only over 2 mile. But because he's been running in those races and now he's able to run in a handicap, the handicapper doesn't really have a grasp on him. I always like horses that place in races but don't win. So in actual fact, Kingston Gent is actually one that I'm also a little bit concerned about. But I don't think he's been quite as consistent in terms of his finishing positions. A couple of fifths in there don't scream out to me. You know, he's been very carefully placed. I feel that this horse, Gushin, has been very carefully placed, and Nathan Andrews being able to take £10 off means this horse is running off a mark of 100. Now, is this horse better than a mark of 100? I think he probably is. And with that in mind, I think he's going to be a decent bet. Interestingly, as per norm, everybody is waiting for everybody else. We don't have any prices about these. What am I looking for Gushin? Now, bearing in mind, there are horses that have got some wins to their name. The likes of Activist, Lundi Noir, albeit that was 234 days ago. The Magus has also won last time out, so there's 3 last time out winners. There is Kingston Gent, who was second last time out. We've also got Dirty Den, who was 3rd last time out. Razzle Dazzle Boy was 2nd last time out. Moon Over Clyro was 3rd last time out. We're going to have horses that are in front of him in the market, I feel for sure. Which means we should get about... I'd be hoping for around 6-7 to 1 about Gushin. Any bigger than that, and I'd be very keen on him. I think he's way overpriced. But yeah, I think he's definitely one that I'm interested in here because I feel that he's not shown his true value yet, and dropping into handicap company is when they can really kick on with him. So Gushin is my 3rd selection of the day in the 455. I'm hoping for anything around 6s, 7 to 1. And finally, the last race of the day that has caught my eye is the 530. A very similar story and a very similar type of horse to the last one we're just going to be backing in Gushin. This one is a 4-year-old filly called La Belle Argentie. Again, I don't think the handicapper has a grip on this horse. Doesn't know what she's like. She turned up to a National Hunt Hurdle, Junior National Hunt Hurdle for fillies in February. Jumped very novice-y. Went off 13-to-8 favourite. Didn't look like she knew what she was doing. She's then come out relatively recently, just 3 weeks ago, and she finished 2nd in another Mares Novices Hurdle. Jumped much better this time. Jumped much better, beaten by a horse called Best Night. Now, that wasn't amazing. The horse has since come out and finished 3rd in a similar race, and did have some okay form over in France, did Best Night. So it wasn't a complete shock that Best Night beat La Belle Argentie. I think the interesting thing here is she's had 2 runs, and she's straight into handicap company. She's rated 102. The Skeltons won't want to be hanging on to a 4-year-old filly for too long if she's not that good. If we have a look, we can see that Capcard Progeny have a good record here. Dan and Harry Skelton also have good records here. I feel this is one that they've gone, look, now we've got her fit. She's jumping fine. The handicapper's been kind enough to give her a mark, and we feel it's very exploitable. Off 102, she's better than that. Yeah, I think she is the one to be on here. I do think those are the, especially RTR rank 1 here. Sweet Caroline might go off favourite because she's at least got some winning form, including last time out when she was winning at Newton Abbot. But that was a mare's handicap. She won off 99, she's gone up to 104, so she's up £5 from the mark that she was originally given. La Belle Argentie, I don't think the handicapper's got that right, and with that in mind, she can take advantage already. They could have stuck her in another, mare's novice hurdle somewhere, but they didn't, and I feel that's because they thought, actually, she is very nicely handicapped now, and we might as well go straight into handicap company. So they are my 4 Friday. I will create another video about this, a quick guide on those that I will be thinking about on Saturday. I'm probably looking in the Native River Handicap Chase, the Harry and Dan Skelton horse, Ho Jolie Smoke, who just needs to get over his latest disappointing run. I still think he's nicely handicapped. And actually in the Silver Trophy, I'll probably stick with that combination again, with Dan and Harry Skelton, with Royal Infantry, who had some smart form, including finishing second recently, or second last time out, in a listed novice hurdle. Does have some decent form, decent back form for Dan and Harry Skelton. They've entered loads, and that's the one that Harry's chosen to ride, and it is a handicap now. And I think off 136 he could be very interesting. But there will be another video tomorrow about that, just to make sure that they are the two that I'm definitely going for. Obviously, if Dan's horses and Harry's horses run on Friday and are atrocious and clearly need the run, that would probably put those two horses under, in more doubt. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to have a good day on Friday as well. So as I said, get involved in the NAP competition as well. There are prizes to be won every week, every month, and also we're doing these rating subscriptions to be won. We're going to probably look at doing them 2 or 3 times a week. This week it's Friday, Saturday and Sunday. The top scorer on the day will win premium ratings for 8 days on Friday, 7 days on Saturday and 7 days on Sunday. So get involved, best of luck and fingers crossed for a great weekend.